Hey everybody, it's Mobius here with another World of Tanks console video, and today is another map drive. We're going to be taking a look at the new map that was introduced in the most recent update, Windstorm. Now this map, I myself have only played this about 2, maybe 3 times, and they've all been standard battles, so I'm still quite unfamiliar with this map, but so far I've kind of liked it. It's got that whole area in the north there that you can see on the mini-map there, which is much more hilly, open terrain, and you've got an entire urban section, which is great for all sorts of different heavy tanks. I'm going to activate the larger square mini-map in the bottom right there so you can see where I am at all times. And once again, a big shout out to Abstruse Squid on the other team there, fellow clanmate, helping me out once again with yet another map drive. So, every time that I've played Windstorm myself, I went over into this north portion of the map over here. You usually wind up with guys having a bit of a standoff in these sectors, more or less. Now, if you have a tank with some pretty damn good turret armor, you can bring it up here on the high ground, on the left, from where I'm going. This is if you're on the west spawn, where I spawned. You can bring your tank that has some pretty good turret armor and good gun depression over here on this left-hand side, and kind of work this location here as well as this location here. You've got some pretty nice hard cover with that piece of terrain right there, as well as a nice piece of hard cover right there. You do want to have some pretty good gun depression, because if the enemy gets right in your face, well, actually I can aim down right here, but if the other team brings a tank like right in front of you, such as right here, which I've seen done the very first time I played this map, the other team put 2 tanks right here. If they're right there in front of you, you do need some good gun depression in order to be able to get your gun down to shoot them. But I'm actually having no problem hitting this corner right here that I just shot at. And obviously way over here is much easier, where you're going to see a lot more tanks coming down. I'm having no problems with my T-54 lightweight getting my gun down that far to shoot them. So you don't need great gun depression, but if the enemy tanks come right in your face, you're going to need some pretty good gun depression. Also, you can get some pretty sweet side-scraping action going on here. If you're trying to support any of your teammates that took the high road up here, you can set up a nice side scrape in a certain heavy tank or a medium tank with good side skirts right along here, getting shots down right there, so that anybody trying to push this part of the map will get caught in a pseudo crossfire. They'll have to worry about more shooting angles than just the one directly in front of them. Now, if you spawn on the east side of the map, which is not where I spawned, as you're coming down here, there are some pieces of cover while you're moving up, and you're probably not going to flip your tank like I just did. Oops, that's just a result of me not paying attention. You'll probably wind up getting stuck in these little pieces of cover that are currently around me. Right here, this one directly in front of me, for example, this is a nice little piece of cover you can play some peekaboo with if you have a pretty low profile tank. Same with this piece of cover over here. This one's a little bit taller, but again, don't really want to use it unless you have a low profile tank. But you can also bring a tank right up into here in this area and play some peekaboo right here on this corner, or possibly even set up a pretty nice side scrape so that you can try and trade shots with any enemies that are on top of that hill that I pointed out earlier, basically right over there pretty much, or possibly peeking around this corner right here that I just shot at. If somebody else is poking around that corner, you can get shots in them from there. You do have to be cautious though, because this spot is pretty vulnerable to any shots coming from your flanks towards the river area over this way. Now, speaking of the river, this whole area over here is fairly level ground. It will require some twisting and turning, but it's kind of a secondary path where any really quick medium or light tanks that have enough maneuverability, you can get around a lot of the fighting going on here, and you can get around it largely unspotted. So you don't want to leave this area completely ignored, not necessarily. If nobody is working this area, you can possibly set up somebody to poke on top of this ridge here where I'm sitting right now, and if you spawned where I did, you can be looking across to the east side over here, see if anybody's hanging out by this bridge or hanging out by their base still, and get some possible side shots into them. Or you can be looking over this way if you spawn on the west side, and again, you have eyes on the base from over here. So This is actually a pretty nice spot for you to get to. If you're a little bit slower, you probably could bring your tank here and get some decent eyes on your base if enemies are trying to cap you out for the win. It's not the best option, but it's definitely there if there is absolutely zero chance of making it back in the time limit, such as there's only 20 seconds left and you're still over in that area. But if there's over a minute, you probably have enough time to book it back to your base, no problem. Now, this whole urban area in the south and southeast of the map, this is where you want to bring various heavy tanks, especially those that don't have, great gun depression. You want to bring most of them in this area. You do not want to completely ignore these parts of the map in the northwest here, obviously, because that just winds up giving up a pretty major map advantage to the enemy team. You do want to take some heavy tanks over there in that area, but preferably only, maybe only about a third of your heavy tanks, if that many. That might even be too much depending on how many heavies are on your team. The rest of the heavies, you want them to go into this town area here. There's going to be a major slugfest with lots of brawling action that happens in this town area. There's all sorts of interesting little pieces of scenery that offer some pretty nice hard cover. For example, this spot right here, this interesting little kind of ramp thing, if you again have a tank that has some really good gun depression, you could actually work this surprisingly well and try to get pot shots on people that are thinking of pressing across that bridge and just kind of keep them at bay, or as well as shoot at anybody down that street there. But it's very situational to work these kinds of points. To actually cross the bridge in the town, to actually cross the river, in the town area, there's two main bridges. You have this one here, and you have the one that I'm sitting on over here in this section. These are kind of easier to get to for the west team. The east team might use the smaller bridges that are up here in these sections. So getting control of those bridge areas is pretty key to controlling the flow of movement on this map if you are going for a big urban push. If you can get some of your tanks to either halt an advance of enemies crossing these bridges or simply make them completely ignore trying to get across them, it gives the opportunity for your faster, more agile tanks to cross the bridges themselves while taking a minimal of enemy fire when they're exposed crossing those bridges, and it just gives them more opportunities for flanking. They can skirt the edges of the town around this way, in this direction that I'm going here along this path on the west side of the town. And they can scoot around and easily get around any enemy tanks that are setting up on various corners in the town area that are set up in some pretty strong defensible positions. This town area is still quite important to winning the battle, but you definitely don't want to commit all your forces here. You still want to send most of your heavy tanks in this area backed up by a decent complement of a few medium tanks and possibly a tank destroyer or two. But most of your tank destroyers, which I haven't really mentioned yet, most of your tank destroyers will wind up on the west spawn, probably just hanging out over this way in those areas to set up for any counter pushes that are coming from this area up here by the team that spawns in the east. And the team that spawns in the east, usually you'll find their tank destroyers set up kind of further back in these areas here, such as A7, A8. I can't really ping them anymore. They'll be kind of further back in those areas, setting up to support the fight on their side of that area. So it's Windstorm has so far been a very interesting looking map. As I said, I've only played it like twice. I'm pretty sure it was only twice, and both times I went up into this sector over here in the kind of A3, B4 area because I was playing a medium tank both times. One of them was in my Panther 88, and it was actually in last week's Friday stream, so if you want to take a look at that and find it, it is going to be archived there for about another week, I believe. I forget how long Twitch keeps videos for non-Prime users, but if you want to see me playing this map in my Panther 88 for the very first time, I pretty much got stuck in the northwest sector. Not much else happened there, just some usual Panther 88 sniping crap going on there. So there is that piece of gameplay. These bridges here in the north, they're kind of a little more dangerous than the other ones in the south part of the town because they arc upwards. So with the current physics, you could even see right now with my T-54 lightweight, I'm having some slight difficulty traversing across them without throwing myself in the drink. So it's a little difficult crossing those bridges in the north. So they probably won't see as much use trying to cross the river to get to the other side of the town on this map. Those bridges in the south, as I said earlier, they're quite important. You want to try and maintain control in that area, just to restrict the movement of enemy tanks from flanking your main forces in the town, but also allow any of your own more maneuverable medium tanks, or possibly even some quicker heavy tanks, to cross those bridges and take very little or no enemy fire and start setting up some flanking maneuvers going on. Now, the cap circles themselves, as I said, they can get shot from, I believe it was this hilltop right here that I just shot at. This cap in particular is quite exposed to it. There's not a hell of a lot of hard cover in this cap zone, so again, it's kind of a last resort sort of thing if you're trying to just squeak out a cheeky win when you're down, 1 to 4, 1 to 5, or something, similarly bad. I suppose would be the case. It's 2 to 9. There's no real chance of you beating out the other team just by killing them all, and they're all on the other side of the map. Go for a cap win if possible, but very, very risky in the cap zone on the east side of the map. And we're going to scoot over to the cap zone on the west side of the map just to take a look at it. Take a look at the kind of hard cover you can set up for in there. Now, I did mention that tank destroyers tend to go to kind of the northern areas, but you can also set up your tank destroyers fairly close to your cap circles, for example, about over here and over here, to, again, deal with a counter push from the enemy team. That is, if they are able to successfully get through the town. But essentially, that's more of a fallback point. If you're helping control the push in the north, or assisting your team in the north, but you see the town is kind of being lost, you can reposition your tank destroyer or whatever other support tank back into those areas and try and get some shots on anybody coming out of the town that are just heading straight for your flag, or possibly even bring your tanks over here into this section of the map that I mentioned previously, seeing if you can cut off their approach a little bit if they're simply just trying to get a flank on any of your teams still in the northern areas. So back to the matter at hand, this flag area, there's again no real hard cover in here. There's some trees that could offer a slight increase to your camo rating, so it might be a little bit harder to be spotted if you're in this flag, but again, it can get shot at from that ridge top, which I believe it's I don't think it's that one. Sorry, I'm looking in the wrong direction. There it is. That ridge top right there that I just fired at. That ridge top, I'm pretty sure, has eyes on both flags, including this one. So if somebody's there, they could get shots on you if you're capping this base. And if anybody gets within shooting range over any of the natural terrain or the hard cover, it's very easy to just get shot up if you're sitting on the cap. So the cap option is an extremely last resort sort of thing for this map, because it's so risky to do it. And it's very easy for people to just line up shots on you and reset that cap timer. So that mostly covers it for Windstorm. It's one of the smaller maps, actually. It's only 1,000 meters by 1,000 meters, so it's basically a 1 square kilometer. So it's a bit of a small map. That's not an illusion. It actually is one of the smaller maps, because 1,000 by 1,000, if I recall correctly, is the smallest size map in World of Tanks console. So it's a lot of tightly compacted action in specific zones. Like I said, you're going to have some action going on up in this northwest corner. There's multiple pathways that you can take to see if you can get some flanking going on, and see if you can set up a push there. Some TDs will also be going there to try to snipe and support that area, and a lot of the action is going to come down and boil down to controlling these two bridges here, as well as trying to prevent the enemy from utilizing these two bridges right here and setting up flanking maneuvers. So that's more or less it. As I said, for Windstorm, I'm going to use this very moment in time to bring up a screenshot of the overhead map on encounter mode to show you exactly where the encounter flag is and where the two spawn points are. So you should be seeing that right now, just a screenshot overlaying this current gameplay, because I personally have not played encounter on this map yet. So I figured I should share that with you guys because I don't really know where it spawns. But this screenshot should show you where the flag is as well as where the enemy spawns are. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope it was really helpful. Thanks once again to Abstruse Squid, fellow clanmate, helping me out with yet another map drive. This has been Mobius Y, cruising around Windstorm. As always, thanks very much for watching. I hope to see you on the battlefield or in my next video. You guys have a wonderful night and happy tanking.